The Courage to Be Disliked by, let's see if I can do this without looking at the screen, Fumitake Koga and Ichiro Kishimi. Did I get it right? If it's not Ichiro, I hope I got that right. This book always came off to me as like a specialized sort of Brene Brown book. What makes this one interesting in reality, though, is that it follows a conversation between a philosopher and a young man about how we are all able to determine the outcomes of our own lives by freeing ourselves from the shackles of other people's expectations. Alongside its Malcolm Gladwellian book cover, it is based on the teachings of Alfred Adler, one of the three giants of 20th century psychology. Does that make it dull? Like, does that make it a little inaccessible? Are the authors able to overcome this by putting a unique and fun spin on it? You bet your bottom they were. I have never come across something quite like this one. Maybe close, maybe kind of close. That sort of like conversational tone in Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill or The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle in some points, but this one has an element of narration in it that you might find in, like, at least in the beginning, in like an old Disney movie or something. And how does that blend in with these teachings? Let's talk about it. Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description. If you guys buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. You can also find this book and many other books on my Amazon storefront. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I want to make self-growth normal, because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. What's pretty cool is that instead of your like mundane labeling of sections, the chapters actually fall under nights. It's pretty interesting. The conversations take place over a series of 5 nights. And I'm going to go over each night because the actual like conversations and what they go over, that's just a billion different chapter names. The first night is Deny Trauma. First off, in the author's note, this young boy sounds like unusually smart. At the beginning of the first chapter, you hear this narration of what was going on in the boy's head and what personal issues he was struggling with that placed his mindset where it was. And the philosopher, in the meantime, explains the differences between like Adler, Freud, and Jung, Carl Jung. Freud and Jung are the other two giants of 20th century psychology. I'm sure you've probably heard of them. I feel like they're a lot more popular and well-known than Alfred Adler. To be honest, I had never heard of him before checking this book out. But the philosopher talked a big game of Adler. Many of Adler's teachings can be found in between the lines of like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and How to Stop Worrying, as well as Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. Mind you, these are some of the absolute most well-known self-help books in history. So I'm making my way through the first night, and here are my thoughts. I think the best thing about these conversations to a consumer are that they are realistic and also believable. So, like again, remember when I said inaccessible earlier? This kind of addresses that, and it sort of turns it inside out. In a way, I guess. At certain points, I would listen to both of them talk to each other and think, well, he does have a point. Certain things you hear the philosophers say, they might piss you off a little at first, and then they'll piss off the boy, and you think, well, the boy gets it. He understands it. The hardest hammer the philosopher dropped in this night was that no matter what has occurred in your life, it should have no bearing at all on how you live your life from now on, and that you living in the here and now is the one thing that determines your own life. The second night is All the Problems Are Interpersonal Relationship Problems. This night focused on interpersonal relationship problems and traps, such as inferiority and superiority complexes. For those wondering, interpersonal means relating to relationships or communication between people. Something else I noticed is that the philosopher becomes more comfortable, and that he and the boy begin to build a little bit of like a rapport as they get to know each other gradually while he's teaching and discussing these topics. For example, when the philosopher talked about an insecurity he was teased about by a friend when he was a kid, the boy said, you know, sounds like some friend. The gradual manner in which they rolled this out was just brilliant. That requires something that not many authors I've ever checked out can easily just incorporate into a book. Because the books where the authors are able to do that with so much ease, it's just not the type of book that we review on this channel. But this is something else that, to me, makes these conversations all the more believable. It doesn't seem like a script, that's the thing. It doesn't seem like it was pre-written, and yet it reads along the lines of how a movie might. The third night, Discard Other People's Tasks. I don't really understand what he means exactly by tasks, but the further I got into the book, the more I formed an opinion of this boy. He's very educated and he has a damn good head on his shoulders. His intentions, they're very clean and of a good nature, and he has lots of potential to do what he wants, but he has a very sizable amount of emotional turmoil to kind of work on. This part in the beginning of it stood out to me. It's through being recognized by others that each of us can truly feel we have value. It is through recognition from others that one is able to wipe away one's feeling of inferiority. One learns to have confidence in oneself. The way that they talk about freedom to live versus other people's expectations kind of reminds me of like paparazzi. If there's one thing that super famous people have to worry about that just everyone else doesn't, and probably most don't understand, it's paparazzi. Paparazzi will, if you let it, will absolutely tear your relationships to shreds if you are a super famous person. It can cost so much money and respect from your followers if you do not know how to handle it. If you don't believe me, check out Prince Harry's memoir and check out Pamela Anderson's memoir. Both of them came out earlier this year, and those are the most recent examples I can think of that I've checked out. Heck, watch a couple episodes of The Kardashians if you don't believe me. My fiance and I watch plenty of it, and there are moments that they will express how grateful they are for their lives that they have, and yet the way that just any stranger might and has already treated them, or any of them individually, they actually don't feel safe, especially with their kids, unless literally with all of the money they have, they rent out an entire store or restaurant or section of a park, or I think even entire theme park like a Disney park or something that normally anyone and everyone will have access to otherwise for several hours or maybe even a whole day. And you can't go there for those hours or that whole day because the entire thing has been rented out for use by these super famous people because they feel unsafe. I mean, it's completely insane. But honestly, when you live that kind of life, one, it is pretty understandable when you sort of frame it like that, and two, you can imagine how such a thing, along with your reputation, can restrict your level of freedom because it compromises with your level of like safety and security within the general public. And in The Fourth Night, where the center of the world is what it's called, this one part really stood out to me from The Fourth Night. Say a man goes to buy a loaf of bread. He pays for it with a coin. That coin does not simply go back to the bakers of the bread. It goes to the producers of flour and butter, to the people who deliver those ingredients, to the purveyors of the gasoline used by the delivery vehicles, to the people in oil producing companies where the fuel comes from, and so on. So it's all connected. People are never truly alone or separate from community, and they cannot be. So the boy, you know what the boy said? He's like, so you're saying I should fantasize more when I'm buying bread. From here, they address a sense of belonging. In The Fifth Night, to live in earnest in the here and now. Something else I noticed is that the boy does not have a name. And when I realized that, I couldn't help but wonder why. Something on top of that is he'll occasionally go a whole month in between visits. Like I said, there's a narrator, and see what she would mention sometimes, like, you know, the boy thought about this for 3 weeks. And sometimes he couldn't sleep at night because he thought about it so much. And then he would come back in and talk to the philosopher, and you know, the boy's like, I've thought so much about this. And the philosopher will kind of be like, you know, I could kind of tell. The last night about a sense of community. Even the part about workaholism stood out, where the philosopher said that work does not mean just having a job at a company. Work at home, raising children, contributing to the local society, hobbies, and all manners of other things, they are work. Everything is work, really. Companies are just one small part of that. And yet, working at them is what people consider work. It was always weird to me. Life itself is work. Okay, I mean, I could honestly, that's an entirely separate video topic from this one, but the book loses that whole like Disney-like narrator quality maybe a little bit more than halfway through, but overall the dynamic of the whole thing, the progression of the boy and the philosopher growing more comfortable with each other, the way that the boy sort of warmed up when originally he was really cold and callous and standoffish, those to me are honestly way more impressive about this book than anything else. It's like the whole point of the thing went completely over my head. I don't think that's a bad thing, that I'm more impressed with those than anything else, but they did really like take me aback and they really surprised me. I just wasn't expecting such a unique concept, layout, and execution of that concept. Quotes. Here we are, only left with one standout quote from the whole book. Irrational people do not have short tempers. It's only that they don't know that there are effective communication tools other than anger. Direction 1. I recommend this book for someone who wants to learn a little more about Adlerian psychology, or just what we're here on this earth to accomplish in the eyes of 20th century philosophy and psychology. Direction 2. If you like this book, I recommend checking out The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden and Build the Life You Want, very new release from Arthur C. Brooks and Oprah Winfrey. The Courage to be Disliked by Fumitake Koga and Ichiro Kishimi. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere and I will see you then.